Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on the Live Fearlessly video podcast series. I am joined today by Serena, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself before we dive in. But Serena, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to hear more about your life experience with fear and how that life experience has really helped shape the leader that you are today. So would you tell us where you're located and a little bit about yourself and say your last name?
It's Serena Talbot. It looks like Talbot.
I totally was going to say it. I was going to say Talbot. I totally was going to say it the right way, but I am notorious for botching even easy names. So I generally ask, and I forgot to ask that the second I hit play. So here we are. Okay, go ahead.
It's usually my first name because it's spelled funny, but so I am owner of the Mindset Transformation Company. So I'm a mindset coach and a rapid transformational therapist. So I help people if they have past beliefs holding them back, or mindset blocks, or limiting beliefs, or past traumas that are holding them back. So I work with a lot of business owners who are dealing with overwhelm, money blocks, self-sabotage, stuff that's stopping them. Like anything where you know in your brain, like I need to be doing this, logically, I need to be taking this action or doing this or showing up or charging that price, and you're not doing it, then most likely you have a subconscious belief that's stopping you. And our subconscious runs 95, some scientists say 97% of our life. So it's really helpful to hang out there. So when I work with people, that's what I do. We do the Rapid Transformational Therapy, which is a really powerful, it's hypnotherapy to get to the root of issues. And then the other mindset coaching is figuring out, really showing people like, this is how your subconscious works. And this is why this is coming up. And this is why, you're feeling this way, and helping them translate. So moving forward, they can be able to do those things on their own. So that's kind of how I work. And I'm near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So New Berlin.
Yay. Okay, so that's super fun. I interview people from all over the world, actually. So I love that you added Wisconsin. So I was going to add that because sometimes.
Yeah, and we just moved down here a year and a couple months ago, but we were south of Stevens Point, so we were close to you.
Dang. Yeah. Oh, fun.
Moved away from you, and then I met you.
Yeah, that's okay. We reconnected. No. But actually, so to tell you guys a little bit too, Serena and I actually met through a women's connection company called Polka Dot Powerhouse. And I love that she's all about like helping get the action, the things that we know we need to be doing, and taking the steps to make it happen. So I connected very much with that. And now getting to know Serena, I was like, okay, please come share with the audience more about like your past experiences. So before we dive in about your story, Serena, would you tell us something like a fun fact? If we went and stalked your social media, was something that we wouldn't know about you?
Well, I think I do have one picture, but so I'll just share all the children in my siblings. There's a lot of siblings. That's something that probably a lot of people don't know about me unless they know me really well. So my mom had 2 kids before she married my dad, and my dad had 3 kids before he married my mom. And then they got together and had 4 kids. So there's 9. And 4 brothers out of that. My dad's kids I really didn't grow up with. My mom's 2 boys, we did, and then my 2 little brothers. And so my little sister was born when I was 5, actually the day I turned 6, on my birthday. And I said, if she's a boy, I'm moving out. So probably not a lot of people know that. So thankfully she was a girl, didn't have to move out. And she was my annoying little sister for many years. And now we're good friends. So
that's awesome. I come from a very blended family as well. My parents were married before they had my one sister and I together. They were both married, had daughters before, then they had us, and then they both married. And my dad and my bonus mom, she came with 3 boys and a girl. So yeah.
That's a lot. How many is that total?
So 4 and 4.
8. Yeah.
I'm good at really simple math. Oh, that's the only kind of simple math I do, guys. So yes, 8. Glad we got that. So that's super fun. So So that is a great fun fact. Thank you. I love to just get to know people on another level and just start with some light stuff that, someone can relate to it, right? I have a blended family and some people are like, that is crazy. But hey, it's our crazy life, right?
I love it. Yes.
That's awesome. So, okay, so let's dive in. Let's talk about fear. And so I'm going to ask the question. You just say what comes to mind for you, and where it takes you. So, when was a significant time in your life that fear held you back from living your life fully, and how you see that is something that has really helped you become who you are today?
Yeah, and this is a reason with the work that I do that I'm really passionate about helping business owners, because I really believe our businesses lead us like straight into our fears, and that was my experience. So in my late 20s, before I went back to school and do what I do now, I started and ran a homeless shelter. So I wanted to help people. Like, I'm passionate about helping people, but unconsciously it was really about like proving my worth. That was really a motivation there. And when you run a homeless shelter, like, everybody loves you, right? That's pretty great. So
Right.
that wasn't my intention consciously in starting it. But so with that business, I started it and ran it for 5 years. And so as I ran it, like year 2 and 3 and 4 kept bringing up in me tons of anxiety and fear of failure and fear that I wasn't enough and that it wasn't going to pan out. And if it wasn't big enough, that I wasn't good enough. And, we were in a smaller town, and it wasn't a huge organization, but if we had any donations that would come in, I would feel really excited. And then if we didn't, I would feel horrible. Like, my self-worth went up and down based on how, the performance of the business and the women who live there. So if there was a transformation in one of their lives, I was like, I'm amazing. And if somebody like moved out or things didn't work out, I was like, I'm horrible. And it was so much fear and anxiety all the time. But that was such a big part of my life that I didn't even know till I started to heal. But what it was doing was causing me to burn out and not be able to make decisions and not be able to function. And I would go home. My husband would tell you, I would just go home and I was with my family, but I was not present at all. And I would just like sit, I would go like this. I'd be on the couch. Like, it's cool that you have video, like scratching my head, just zoned out, like, because I couldn't be present, because I was so afraid I was going to miss something, or I was going to screw something up, or I was going to say something wrong, and I was going to lose it,
So like literally, you were always thinking about like the workplace specifically in there. So you were never like checking that at the door and being able to show back up for your family because you were so consumed with the what if and the fear and all those things. Okay.
I mean, once in a while, over 5 years, I did chill out like a few times, but the common was bringing it home, and I would work from home, as well, but I could not turn it off because I was just afraid if I turned it off, then I really had this feeling that, like, if I let go, and now I do this, I have clients who experience this too. Like, if I let go of the world, like if I take my hands off,
get your hands off the wheel,
that it's gonna, like, everything's gonna fall apart, and that's how it really felt.
Wow. Oh, I'm guys, can the viewers, can you guys relate to this at all? Like, have you ever been like gripping so tight to what you have in fear of what's going to happen if you let it go, which is true. Like, we actually can't receive when our hands are closed. We are unable to receive. So we have to let go in order to receive. Like, it is so true. So, I mean, if when you guys are like, oh my gosh, it's so true, I have this right now, like, let us know in the comments that Serena's not alone in this, right? Like, we hear you, and we've dealt with this before. We would love to hear from you. So, Serena, like, when that was like where you're at, right? Your husband is obviously like, you were not there, and like being more aware of it. Like,
Yeah.
Where were you mentally, like, burnt out? But like, how long did it actually take for you to start to realize that? How
I
long
like
did
to
you
say
say how
I'm
long it
a
was?
quick learner, 4.5 years. Like, I was like a pit bull. Like I was, so we get it, right? We get messages from people or our intuition, or we just know. Like I would journal. And it would be like, let go, all is well. And I'd be like, that sounds amazing. And I would not do it. Like I have years of journaling, like let go. But I was like a pit bull. Like it just had to be ripped out of my hands, which is, eventually what happened, and why, when you're saying the power of it. But that, yeah, it took a long time. And at first, right, I would say the first year or two, I wasn't really aware of it. And this is why I really believe the entrepreneur journey shows us these things. I started out with these amazing intentions and these dreams and this vision. Like I wanted to be in 3 states, not just 3 towns, 3 states. I wanted to like expand this thing everywhere.
Yeah.
And what started to happen was there was this pattern of I wanted like bigger, better, faster. So I was always like, I want a different program, and we have to do more. And when you're talking about not being able to receive, I was surrounded by phenomenal, amazing people that wanted to help me. But I just had this vision that was like perfect, like I said, and bigger. And I wasn't able to receive like what was in front of me because I was always like more. I've described it as if you're building a house and you start building the 2nd floor. Like I was in such a big hurry because this was my identity. Like this was me proving my worth. So yeah, it was a lot that started to pile up of those, people coming, and then I couldn't receive help. And so they were trying to help, and I would be like, no, I'll take it. I'll take it back. I'll just do it. And
Keep stacking those bricks on my 2nd level house so that I collapse.
Yes. And so I would go through people, volunteers and board members and staff, who were just trying to help. And I wasn't making it very easy. And so those first couple of years, I was like, oh, I'll just get different ones. It's them, or it's the program, or it's this. Right. And around year 3.5, I was like, oh, like I'm the common denominator here. And really year 4, I was like, okay, I got to change. And
that's a hard thing though. Like that's a hard thing for a pivotal moment for people everyone, right? We've all had this when we realize like, shit, I see it. And now we're looking at yourself in a mirror and like, there it is.
I found the enemy.
What I think about that is like, this is the moment of like the awareness.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead.
Yeah. And so I had this awareness that I needed to let go and I needed to change. I had zero idea how, like taking my hands off, zero idea, like how the heck to do that. And so I didn't. It really took me a year. And
so what was the thing that had you jump ship then? You said it was kind of forced out and ripped out.
I was completely burned out. I had zero energy left. I was starting to get an ulcer. I was it was health and energy. And I kept trying to, because I had 4 little kids. My youngest daughter was born. I got pregnant a couple months after we started it. In 2000, we started in 2007. So she was born July 2008. So I've got 4 little kids. I'm homeschooling. I never took any money from it, Rebecca. It's just insane. Like it wasn't
stacking those bricks.
It wasn't sustainable. I wasn't taking any money. So it was like draining our family in so many ways. Yeah. And so it just wasn't sustainable. And it finally crashed. Like I crashed. And I kept trying to get somebody else to take over, but then I wouldn't actually let it go to somebody else. You know what I mean? So it was like, I wanted to hand it off, but I didn't. So yeah. And we ended up, like that was going to be the best decision. So I remember the day. There was one woman in the house at that point. We could have 3. And there was one left as we were winding down and closing and taking her to a different location with her 3 kids, and then just going home and calling my board to say, you know, we're closing, and then just crying and eating a lot of chocolate. And I gained like 20 pounds. And I remember we had a friend come over to the house to visit for dinner. It had to be at least a month after it closed. And he was like, we were all sitting at the table, and he was like, how's it going? And one of my girls piped up, and she's like, Mom didn't cry that much today. Like,
oh no.
That was like
man, they know, like,
yeah. And I was
like, hiding in a closet.
Yes, because it was my identity. Like, it was, instead of success, I had failure, and I like absorbed that into me. But also it was, you know, the best thing that could have ever possibly happened. And I heard really clearly, you know, I say intuition or God when I went home, right? And I'm home, and I'm feeling like a complete failure. And I really heard very clearly, you need to learn your value and that you're worth something, even when you're not performing. Like, it was so clear to me. And I had no idea how to do that. Zero idea. I'm just valuable all by myself without doing something to earn it.
Being who you are, and that yes, that your world needs who you are. That has been specifically this week, that has been what everyone is talking about, is that, you know, we as humans, we easily are like, it's engraved in us that our worth is tied to a number, a result, you know, something outside of ourselves, that, you know, it's just what we're programmed to do, like as a script when we were raised. I mean, unknowingly, that's just how it is. We're tied to a number or a statistic or a result. So when you were, you know, when you let that go, when it had to be let go, when it finally was the letting go of it, you know, how did relationships shift for you? Did they improve? Did you get close with your husband when that happened? You know, did the board people like support you? Like, what did relationships or connections in your world look like in that time frame?
Yeah, it was a process. And what I did is I just went home and I kind of crawled under a rock. And I cut myself off a lot. There were people that thought I moved.
Wow.
This is a small little dinky town. Like, like where everybody knows what.
So you quarantined and you went.
I just hid. And I needed that. Like I needed, because I did fundraisers and I spoke, and you know, it was a town of 2,000 people. So I was out and about a lot, trying to get money and stuff. And so I needed to rest. But I did it too much. So as far as the relationships, but so because the belief in my brain was so strong, I'm not valuable if I don't succeed at this, and I labeled myself a failure, I assumed that's how other people saw me. And it took a couple years for me to heal enough. And I remember there was one church that had donated right before we closed. And I said, well, we can give the money back. And they said, no, it's fine. And it was long enough that, you know, we still had bills and stuff. So they're like, no, it's fine. And I remember going to that pastor and I was like, I'm so sorry, like that we let you down. It was probably 3 years later. And he's like, you never let me down. Like, you did this. Like, you went out and you did this thing, and that's success. And I cried, of course, but I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I assumed everybody thought about me the way I thought in my head. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when you're talking about receiving, like when I say everybody around me loved me, I didn't know that until much later. And I had this aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh, like they were just loving me and trying and helping and serving and seeing in me like what I didn't even see. Like they weren't like, oh, she's not big enough yet, like I was. Yeah. They were like, oh, this is a good thing, you know. Yeah. So
We're
it
our
was,
worst critics.
yeah, it was healing before I could see, like, and now I have amazing relationships. And I had one really good girlfriend, and she came into my life. I'm trying to think if it was like maybe 3 or 4 years after Naomi House was the name of the organization, closed, and I started to heal. And she's like, I can't. And we had lived close to each other. And she's like, I can't believe we haven't been friends. And I was like, we could not have been friends because I didn't know how to do friends, because that inner critic was just so big.
Wow.
And so it was healing to allow all of that in. But there were people, board members and volunteers who, even though I wasn't receiving it, they were just loving me and encouraging me. One of our house managers just had a profound impact on my life because she was very trauma informed. And that's what I didn't know. That was all the things that were coming up and causing me to, have all the issues that I had, just like the women that were in the home. And she was phenomenal, and had a big impact in my life. And so
but we didn't ask this, but I'm curious. So why a homeless shelter?
So it just happened that my husband and I had invested in a rental property. And when we did that, a friend of ours had let us know that there was homelessness in this little county, this smaller county in central Wisconsin. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea. And so we did some research, and homelessness is growing quicker in rural communities. People leave the city and then they go to the rural communities, and it doesn't look the same. People aren't walking the streets. They call it like couch surfing. They're staying at different houses, and, women and kids at different houses all the time. And the families don't have that stability. And in the summertime, living at campgrounds and in garages and all of those kind of things. And so when I heard about that and like put two and two together, like, okay, well, we have this space, like we could do this, and talk to a lawyer. And they're like, yeah, you can do that. And it was, I think, like you're talking about figuring out who we are, like helping people is part of who I am. And so that was part of this journey. And kind of not understanding what I understand now about trauma, was, well, they just need a mentor, and they just need a job, and they just need money, and they just need skills. We gave classes and things like that. And so my goal was to help, because that's part of who I am. And it was a huge learning experience about trauma. And that even when you have all of the material stuff, if you have trauma, it holds you back and you self-sabotage, right? That was exactly what I just explained I was doing. And the women that we were serving were as well. And we did serve them and help them get jobs and different things like that. So
yes, you did good. It was impactful. Yes, I love it. And you know what? I don't know. So my gift is that I can hear what you say, and then I like say it back so that you understand what you said. So something that I pulled through in this conversation is, the homelessness. And earlier you talked about that you think about it as building a house and how you do the second level right away. So like, to me, I think of belonging. Like, you wanted to give these women in these families a space of belonging. And I don't know, that was just like sticking out to me about the building the house, and the fact that it's for the homeless shelter. So I was curious to find out, like, wait, why the homeless shelter?
Yeah.
What was that?
And part of it was my own upbringing. So my mom, she was married to my dad for 5 years, and he was abusive and alcoholic. And so she divorced, and her background was in dance. She was a ballerina. And so she raised us 4 kids, and we were poor my whole growing up. There were different times we would have money, but just because she was a single mom with 4 kids, a lot of times we didn't have money. And so there was that part of it too, like understanding that it's easy to forget those people, or think, oh, well, they just need to get a job, or they just,
right.
So there was a heart for it that way. Like, oh, now I'm in a better position, I want to help. But yeah, I think that's I'll have to think about that, the belonging, because I think for what I do now with people is 100% like allowing people to like be who they really are. And when we remove, we say mindset blocks, it's like removing the things that are stopping you from seeing who you are and your gifts and your talents, and that you can do the thing you're supposed to do in life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I love how things come like full circle, and you're like, oh, actually that piece goes with that. And it's like, okay, I see it now. And like you said, it's really being able to see it. And then like that acknowledgement, like this is what it is. I think that's super important. So what, I would love for you to share like a nugget, like what is advice that you would give the viewers that are like, okay, I'm in this space, I have these, these similarities in self-worth and all of that. Like what it would be advice that you would give the viewers, or some like a next step action, because I'm all about taking the action, and you are too. So what is an action step that the viewers can take from here, from hearing your story and resonating with it? Where do they go from here?
I think, to me, it's an understanding that life and our businesses are always leading us to healing. So I think sometimes we're led up to this big, hairy, scary thing, and then we want to stop and turn around and go back. And to me, it's to keep going, like, because on the other side of this is something like beyond anything you could even imagine. And with my story, a different business a few years later, to keep going, like never stop learning and healing and growing, even if it's not the same business, or you have failures along the way and it doesn't look the same, like keep trusting that even when you're led straight into like a big mess, like that's on purpose, because there's stuff to learn there. And don't quit.
Never give up. I love it. So what would be some like a practical step that someone could take? So you mentioned earlier that you did a lot of journaling before, and it really didn't move you forward. So I talk about journaling a lot in my thoughts, but like the thought of just like writing it down and being like, oh, it didn't work. So what is something that, maybe a book recommendation, or, did you get a mentor or a spiritual guide, or like something that like, what is something practical that, the viewers could take as advice, like that could maybe help them move?
So two things. I mean, what I do, the rapid transformational therapy the work that I do. So get a coach, figure out what your limiting beliefs are.
Did you get a coach? Did you?
I personally got lots of therapists, but what the biggest thing that changed my life was the rapid transformational therapy, like the session with the women who did that with me, having a profound impact in my life, because it was pinpointing those past experiences where I learned that I'm not worth anything, right? That was programmed when I was little. You're not worth anything. You shouldn't be here. You're not valuable. And so it was addressing those root issues that really allowed me to begin to heal. And before that, I had done lots of traditional therapy and books and videos and things like that. But it was really the subconscious work that helped me. But one thing that was, even before I did that was very powerful, was the idea, like when you're journaling, you'll usually get things to do, right? I don't know. Do you?
Like a checklist.
You get action steps when you're journaling, and take those. I think that's the biggest thing. And for me, it was understanding the resistance when my intuition would say, do this, or let go, or call that person, or ask for help. And then I would have like a psycho journal, Rebecca. Like one half would be like, let go, and the other would be my ego and fear. And when I heard somebody on a podcast talk about that ego and fear are going to come against like your intuition, because at first I just thought I am insane, because one half of this page is like trust and let go and ask for help, And the other is like, never, like, you must do it all, you know? So it was that understanding that you're going to get led to do the actions, and then to understand the resistance, that your ego is going to be scared. It's going to be like, what do people think? Those fears are going to come up, but take the actions. As you take the actions, it's going to move you past that fear.
Yeah, I love it. So something that you probably don't know about me is that I relate fear to relationship. So I actually relate fear to a friend. I actually say that fear is my best friend. I've adopted it as my best friend, because what I know to be true is that my best friend always has my best interest at heart. And I tell myself, my fear is pushing me. Like you said, our fears push us to that point of like, you need to pay attention, right? It's like knocking at our door saying like, let me in. And I literally have made fear my best friend my whole life. And that was the reframe for me to shift from the scary unknown things that come to me, is like, that's my superpower, is that I look at fear and I say, you're going to teach me something and I'm going to pay attention, or you're going to slap me upside the head and keep saying it, pretty much. So yeah, that's, and so interesting though about the journal, the one side and the other, like, wow.
It was my fear coming up, and I didn't know how to make it my friend. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to go, okay, fear, thank you. I'm going to take the action anyway and reframe it however I needed to, or get help, or get support, or do what needed to be done. Like I allowed the fear to be the boss, which it can be our friend, but it can't be our boss. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's the toxic side of it. It's like toxic relationships, like I was saying, like fear is either your best friend and it's a benefit, or it's toxic, like the relationships that suck the life out of you. That's a toxic fear and a toxic relationship. We want the beneficial ones that are supporting and loving, and like all those amazing people that still stood there and threw love at you when you had your guards up. So I love it.
I love that. And just to have it be expected. You can just expect that fear is going to be there, and that your ego is going to wonder, like, what's everybody going to think? And that's fine. Because for me, I didn't expect it, so it shut me down. And when I came to that realization on that podcast, like you're saying, where it was like, oh yeah, of course that's going to come up. Just keep going. It was like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what we don't know until we know it. So there we go.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So that's super great. Where's the best place for the viewers to connect with you, Serena?
SerenaTalbot.com, Serena Talbot on Facebook, Serena Talbot on Instagram. So if you can, they'll be able to see my name on the screen, because it's Cyrina. It's spelled goofy, and it'll be in the, I'm sure, in the description. But that's to look for. That is the best place to find me.
Awesome. You can find her, Google her. I love it. So in closing out, I love to cast a vision, and I'm very future focused, and like putting that out in the world and manifesting and like all of these great things, moving towards our goals. So where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And like knowing that you now have the tools to help support you, and you can reframe and literally decide, you know, when your fears are beneficial or toxic more with the program that you have. So for yourself, where do you see yourself 2025? What do you see?
Well, a lot of things. I like to do a lot of things. So I know I have a book. I actually have a plan to co-author a book this year with somebody about mindset and speaking. And then one thing that I haven't done, that's kind of been in my heart and on my agenda, is work with veterans. And then there's an opportunity that just came across to work with like people in prison. So I know that's probably a year or two, but that would be on the agenda. And then continue to do what I do and just serve more people, because I love what I do. So I think that's a plan, and travel with my family, hang out. So
awesome. I think that's great. I love it. Is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers with before we go?
I just want to reiterate, trust, like where you are right now and where you're being led, and any of the challenges are exactly bringing you where you want to be. There's a book that I would recommend. It's called The Obstacle is the Way.
Okay.
So it's really good. And it's talking about that thing that we're like, oh, if that would just go away, then everything would be great, is the thing, you know, that's going to be used to teach us and train us and that kind of thing. But trust life and trust your business. And it's bringing you exactly where you want to go. But it never like shows us the plan, and it never does it what we want. And it's annoying, but we can trust that it's going where we want it to go. I would like the plan spelled out, but it isn't.
Yeah. Where are those guides?
No, we're supposed to have this faith.
We need the challenges. We need to learn the lessons,
yes.
so we can fully show up and experience it
100%.
and help the people that are just a little bit behind us, because it's hot on the mind. It's fire in our soul to be like, yes, we want to help people so that they can move faster and go further than we did, because it's really about helping people get a little bit, you know, ahead.
And you hear so many times that people are like, you know, here are my 5 tips because I made all these mistakes and here's what I've learned. And I really believe all the mistakes, that's how you learned. Like you don't have
how you got those tips
to avoid the mistakes. The mistakes are what teach us. And like, I wouldn't trade the big hot mess that organization ended up, you know, in the last couple of years being, because that's where I learned. That's how I learned so much that I would never trade.
Yeah, we have to. I've heard this in a meditation this morning, actually, that it's very much about learning to grow where we're planted.
Yeah.
So we'll end with that. I love it.
I love it.
Serena, thank you so much for your time and sharing your nuggets of knowledge and your experience with us. This was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that you highlight these stories that we all have, because sometimes we just make it all shiny, but this is the good stuff.
Yeah, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for your time. This was so fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone that's watching, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Make it a great day, everyone.